Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our Lorcana series. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at the different starter decks, explaining what they're good at, explaining what kind of cards you can expect, and just in general, what the sort of feel for each color is as well. If you're looking to start deck building and maybe using combinations that aren't actually found in the original three decks that are out there. Now, much like a starter Pokemon in the Pokemon series, the deck that you start off with can really kind of give you a good baseline for your collection. And in general, you kind of want to pick a deck that's going to be a playstyle that you enjoy. And so, what we have on showcase here is the Sleeping Beauty and Simba, which is Sapphire and Steel. We have the Cruella de Vil and Aladdin for Emerald and Ruby, and then Moana and Mickey Mouse for the Opal and Amethyst combination. So, as you can see, they were really, really clever, and the starter decks for the first chapter showcase the entire full spectrum of the 6 different colors. So, which one do you guys want to use? So the first we're going to look at is the Emerald and Ruby combination. And I kind of tried to come up with a little one-liner for what these decks try and do. And so for Emerald and Ruby, it is the pain and drain strategy. The Emerald cards are basically a pain to deal with and for you to be engaging with, if you're fighting against it, or for your opponents to engage with you when you're playing them. So you have cards like Flynn Rider. Whenever this character is challenged, the challenging player must choose and then discard a card. Or the Mad Hatter, who again quests for 3 lore, so you don't want him staying around for long or you're going to get a win condition very, very quickly. But again, if he's then challenged to be gotten rid of off the board, you get to draw a card. So again, it's those kind of cards that, there's some sort of negative consequence for your opponent or positive boon for yourself when you're playing. It's not just a straightforward, oh, I'm just going to get rid of this card. There's some sort of, drawback to your opponents getting rid of those cards. And then the pain comes in the red cards, because there are many cards, whether it be Aladdin or Rapunzel, which has enter the battlefield effects where you play this card, your opponent loses a lore. And then you have the kind of ace of the deck, this Aladdin here, that you can shift in. We're going to talk about shift in terms of the keywords of Lorcana for character cards. I'm going to do a separate video for that. But basically, instead of paying 7, you can pay 5 to put him on top of another Aladdin card that exists there. And he's a 5/5, which is fairly strong. But when he challenges during your turn and defeats a character in the challenge, you gain 2 lore, so it's like you quested with him, and your opponent then loses 2 lore. So it's like a net change of 4 lore on the table. And so the red cards are for the offensive, and the green cards are kind of to be laying down a kind of slightly more defensive, gaining a tactical advantage. So between the two, the red cards are going to bring the pain, and the green cards are going to be a drain on your opponent's resources trying to deal with them. So that's the kind of combination there. But just in general, from my kind of analysis of the colours, Ruby is really focused on challenging and combat. They have effects to lower the lore score, as I've said, and have characters that gain lore through defeating enemies in challenges like Aladdin. But there's also action cards like Tangle, which you can just play to lower the lore score again. And they also have other abilities and action cards like the Borrowed Scimitar for giving your characters better attack power to allow them to, challenge and be better heavy hitters. They also have Dragon Maleficent, who, like her card's ability, there's also a card, Dragonfire, that can just take out a character, banish them straight from the field, whether they're readied or, exerted. And Dragon Maleficent is basically the same thing, a really strong, 7 attack character that can still quest for 2, but also once you play her, banish, get rid of a card, So realistically, red is just for the aggression, for the losing of lore. The only card that can trigger loss of lore that I've seen in the first chapter set anyway. So, if that's kind of your style, this could be for you. And then similarly, their focus is with green to, again, hinder the opponent from wanting to challenge you while you're questing. So, for example, Cheshire Cat, when this character is challenged and banished, you then banish the challenging character. And again, he's cheap enough. He's, 3, ink, quests for 2. Same with Flynn Rider, quests for 2. So by turn, 4, you could potentially be questing for 4 lore and could have been questing for another 2 the turn before that again. So again, it's really, really high acceleration. And, ultimately having you decide, okay, well, which of my characters are going to defeat the Cheshire Cat, because I might want them to quest for lore, but now, they're going to just be banished whatever character, defeats them. And do I happen to have steel that can, single target, that can deal damage without challenging and things of that nature. But you also have the genie and evasive, which also is quite prevalent in Ruby. Pongo, like the absolute evasive dog himself. So evasive characters are basically characters that can only be challenged by other characters with evasive. They're kind of hard to get a grasp on. And so Ruby as well has a good few evasive cards. So between those two, that's like another big kind of hallmark. It's kind of being able to put down cards that, unless your opponent can deal direct damage, or have other evasive characters themselves, your characters are basically free to quest and run you to the end game fairly quickly. So another cool song, actually, just while I'm here, saying they also like to put characters from the field back into their owner's hands to stop any momentum, and they have to then take another turn drawing again. Mother Knows Best, great green song to allow you to basically bounce creatures back to the hand, and red has similar abilities as well. So again, really kind of slowing down your opponent and again hindering them. So that's the first one. And that's kind of a general breakdown of the 2 colours. So if you really like the look of Emerald, but you maybe want to try and mix it with something else, these are other deck building options you can use going forward. So the second deck is the Sapphire Steel deck. This is my first deck that I personally bought, but I've since bought all of them. Again, I'm obsessed with this card game. But a short description of the Sapphire Steel deck is Ramp and Ruin. The Sapphire cards work hard to get you high levels of ink quickly to allow you to summon your strong characters quickly and ahead of the curve of your opponent. The kind of hallmark cards here in the deck are Mickey Mouse the Detective and Grandma Tala. So you can see there that you can put Grandma Tala down, and her ability, I Will Be With You, is when this character is banished, you can put this card into your inkwell face down and exert it. So she basically can quest for 1 or challenge a character and then gets extra ink into your inkwell, which is pretty good. And then Mickey Mouse's Get a Clue, his summon ability is when you play this creature or character, you can put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exert it. So if you're able to get bounce abilities that can bounce your own creatures, Mickey Mouse is definitely one you'd want to bounce and resummon to get loads of ink very, very quickly. And then the steel part of the deck allows you to damage creatures, just targeting them, whether they're exerted or not exerted or evasive. Steel is one of the only direct damage to opposing character type of cards, and the kind of hallmark legendary card there is the song Grab Your Swords, just doing 2 damage to all opposing characters. So again, if you're in a 1v1 and your character and your opponent has a wide board, you could literally potentially wipe tons of creatures off the board. But as well as that, if you're in like a multiplayer game with more than 2 people, you could like damage all of your opponents, and yet it doesn't affect your cards whatsoever. So definitely a really, really cool combination there. And so the Sapphire cards, again, are there to generate high levels of ink very quickly, with cards that can be turned into ink when banished, like Grammatala, and cards that place the top card of your deck directly into the inkwell. Sapphire aims to gain high levels of resources to play multiple characters per turn, or your high cost characters much more quickly. And so we have the song there as well, One Jump Ahead, the exact same effect as Mickey Mouse Detective. You basically put the top card of your deck into the inkwell face down and exert it. These three cards are the holy trinity of, the Sapphire deck in ramping up to ridiculous levels of lore really, really quickly. And one thing with Grammatala is that you can quest with her, and sometimes your opponent mightn't want to banish her because they don't want you getting that extra bit of ink. And so you can nearly have this constant ticking of one, in the early game very, very quickly. And there's always a chance that you can just throw her at something, do 1 damage to it and gain an ink, It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be challenged. You can still challenge with her into your opponent if you want to just get rid of her and, get her into your inkwell quicker. So she's either a quest for 1 and then gain 1 ink when she's destroyed, or deal 1 damage and gain 1 ink. So, she's multifacetedly very, very good. And then Steel, again, has an interesting, I suppose, ability associated with a lot of its characters, which is Bodyguard. So, you see here in the second paragraph, Steel has powerful songs that help you manage cards, as well as the Bodyguard characters that have to be challenged by your opponents, leaving your high lore cards safe to quest. So if you read Hercules the Bodyguard, this character may enter play exerted, and an opposing character who challenges one of your characters must choose one with the Bodyguard if able. So long as your Bodyguard is exerted, they basically have to challenge the Bodyguard character over any other character that you might want to, that might be more advantageous to defeat than your 1 lore gaining Hercules, And that's assuming, the character can survive the contest with Hercules. And then you have Fire the Cannons, a really handy just 1 drop deal 2 damage, and you'll be having so much ink towards the end game that if you end up drawing 2 of these, you could just do 4 damage and then sing a song of Grab Your Swords. That's all of a sudden 6 damage across, 1 particular character and 2 across all the other ones. So you could be taking out really, really big threats really, really quickly. And that's basically Steel. So if you like ramp, and if you like, having the ability to kind of take down readied characters and just chipping away at characters, dealing direct damage to them, Steel might be the color for you. And now the final deck is the Opal and Amethyst deck. And my short description of the Opal Amethyst deck is Eternal Life. The Opal cards work hard to heal your characters while they are wounded so they can continue to quest. Cinderella is a good card for this, and as you can see here, she can exert herself to remove up to 3 damage from a chosen princess character. And then Amethyst has lots of card draw, and you also can use powerful cards like Dr. Facilier to have defeated cards in challenges go to your hand instead of your discard pile. So again, really, really good cards there. Apologies for the typo. So the color breakdown of Amethyst. So Amethyst's main ability is card draw. The Amethyst also has the most control with graveyard interaction. So other cards like Yzma and things like that, she's able to scry as well. So look at the top card and choose to either leave it on top or put it on the bottom. And then you've cards like the Queen and Magic Mirror allowing you to draw cards. And then you have the Magic Brooms that are able to sweep things back from your discard into, your deck. And you also have songs like Part of Your World that are able to, that's an Opal song. But my point is, there's an awful lot of cohesion with graveyard interaction and card draw. That's basically the Amethyst's bread and butter. And then Opal's main strength is healing of other characters with powerful cards like Cinderella and Rapunzel, being able to keep your cards healthy to survive challenges. from your opponent, allowing you to quest to victory without fear of your characters wiping to a board wipe or a grab your swords or what have you. So again, healing glow, just 1 damage, one mana, heal 2, or 1 ink, heal 2 damage from a character. Cinderella can exert herself to heal 3. And then Rapunzel, gifted with healing, has an enter the battlefield effect where she can remove up to 3 damage from a character and then draw cards equal to each number of damages removed in this way. So that's basically the breakdown of all the different colors. So with the last deck there having a lot of graveyard interaction and then also like board sustainability with lots of like healing. That's kind of the strength of Opal and Amethyst, and I hope this has been, an entertaining and informative discussion on those 3. But I think myself, I'm gonna stick with Sapphire Steel for a while. I might delve into Sapphire Amethyst. That could be interesting. But I would be really, really interested to hear what you guys' first decks were, or what your first kind of deck building ideas are. Leave a comment and stay tuned for part 3, where I'm going to do a little demo of like kind of first 5 turns of our Lorcana game, just explaining, what a turn 1 looks like and, how, exerting and challenging and different ideas for the start of a game could look. And then later on, I might break down each of the different key terms in like a key terms video. But that's kind of where I'm seeing the channel going forward. And hopefully if I can have some pals maybe wanting to record maybe 1v1 or something, that could be really cool to kind of showcase the decks versus each other or something. That could be quite nice. But until that all comes to fruition, I'm going to sign off this video. So thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great evening. Happy Halloween.